feel. And- Okay. Very good. Okay. Uh, for those in video land, let me explain that we are continuing our reading and our discussion of Dante's Inferno Canto 8. And we will start by reading the whole canto again in English, but then to do our shorter readings and discussion, we will go down probably up to line 41. And you can find a link to the text in the description of this video. And with that, let me go here. No, I gotta go here. All right. All right. Canto 8 from the beginning. I say, continuing that long before we to the foot of that high tower had come, our eyes went upward to the summit of it. By reason of two flamelets, we saw placed there, and from afar another answer them, so far that hardly could the eye attain it. And to the sea of all discernment turned, I said, what saith this? And what respondeth that other fire? And who are they that made it? And he to me, across the turbid waves, what is expected thou canst now discern, if reek of the morass conceal it not. Oh, thou canst now discern, if reek of the morass conceal it not. Cord never shot an arrow from itself that sped away athwart the air so swift as I beheld a very little boat come o'er the water towards us at that moment, and under the guidance of a single pilot who shouted, Now, art thou arrived, fell soul? Next reader, please.
Phidias, Phidias, thou criest out in vain. For this once, said my lord, thou shalt not have us longer than in the passing of the slow, as he who listens to some great deceit that has been done to him, and then resents it. Such became Phidias as he gathered rod. My guide descended down into the boat, and then he made me enter after him, and only when I entered seemed it laden. Soon as the guide and I were in the boat, the anti-prow goes on its way, dividing more of the water than 'tis wont with others. While we were running through the dead canal, up rose in front of me one full of mire, and said, Who art thou that comest here the hour? Next, please.
I have to go. My doorbell's ringing. Next person. I'll be right back.
And I to him, although I come, I stay not. But who art thou that hast become so squalid? Thou seest that I am one who weeps, he answered. And I to him with weeping and with wailing, Thou spirit maledict, do thou remain. For thee I know, though thou art all defiled. Then stretched he both his hands unto the boat, whereat my wary master thrust him back, saying, Away there with the other dogs. Thereafter with his arms he clasped my neck. He kissed my face and said, Disdainful soul, blessed be she who bore thee in her bosom. That was an arrogant person in the world. Goodness is none that decks his memory. So likewise here his shade is furious. Next, please.
Are many in the world above posed there as kings, but here will lie like pigs in muck, leaving them behind horrible dispraise. Sir, I replied, this I should really like before we make our way beyond this lake, to see him dabbled in the minestrone. He gave me my answer. Before that shore has come to view, you will surely have your fill, and rightly you rejoice in this desire. Then, moments on, I saw that sinner ripped to vicious tatters by the mud-caked lot. I praise God still, and still give thanks for that. Give him, they howled. Let's get him, Silver Phil. That crazy Florentine, he bucked, he balked, turning the Guelph turned teeth upon himself. Next.
There we left him, as doth this tale of mine, for on my ears there smote a wailing cry, and I craned forward eager to divine its meaning. See, my son, it now draws nigh, said my good lord, the city of Dis, with its sad citizens, its great company. And already I see its mosques rise clearly from the valley yonder, a red shell, as though drawn out of glowing furnaces. And he replied, the flames unquenchable that fire them from within, thus make them burn ruddy, as thou seest in this the nether hell. And we now were come to the deep moats which turn to gird the city all disconsolate, whose walls appeared as they were made of iron. A long way round we had to navigate before we came to where the ferryman roared, out with you now, for here's the gate. Next, please.
More than 1,000 at the gates I saw, out of the heavens rained down, who angrily were saying, who is this that without death goes through the kingdom of the people dead? And my sagacious master made a sign of wishing secretly to speak with them. A little then they quelled their great disdain and said, come thou alone, and he be gone, who has so boldly entered these dominions. Let him return alone by his mad road. Try if he can, for thou shalt here remain, who has escorted him through such dark regions. Next.
Think, reader, if I was discomforted at utterance of the accursed words, for never to return here, I believed. Oh, my dear guide, who more than 7 times has rendered me security and drawn me from imminent peril that before me stood. Do not desert me, said I, thus undone. And if the going be far, if the going farther be denied us, let us retrace our steps together swiftly. And that Lord, who had led me thitherward, said unto me, fear not, because our passage none can take from us. It by such is given. Next.
But here await my turn.
Yes, please do.
Okay. But here await me in thy weary spirit comfort and nourish with a better hope. For in this nether world I will not leave thee. So onward goes, and there abandons me my father sweet, and I remain in doubt. For no and yes within my head contend. I could not hear what he proposed to them, but with them there he did not linger long, ere each within in rivalry ran back. They closed the portals, those our adversaries, on my lord's breast, who had remained without and turned to me, with footsteps far between. His eyes cast down, his forehead shorn, had he of all its boldness, and he said with sighs, who has denied to me the dolesome houses? And unto me, thou, because I am angry, fear not, for I will conquer in the trial whatever for defense within be planned. This arrogance of theirs is nothing new, for once they used it at a less secret gate, which finds itself without a fastening still. Or it didst thou behold the dead inscription, and now this side of it descends the steep, passing along the circles without escort, one by whose means the city shall be opened.
Okay, great.
Mm.
Great. So we need someone to give Graciela a brief summary from lines 1 to 41 or 1 to 40. Anybody like to volunteer for that?
Volunteer Duncan?
Hmm?
Can I volunteer you?
You can volunteer. Okay. All right, I'll do what I can here. Okay, so they're coming out of Inferno 7. And you can see that in the early lines, it describes two towers. And these two towers signal each other. And really what's going on is the one tower is saying, hey, there's a couple of souls that are going to cross the river Styx. So then from the other tower comes a ferry boat, who the captain of the ferry boat is Phlegus. And Phlegus is thinking that these are his standard damn souls, and so he treats them as that. And so that's why he says, "Now art thou arrived, fell soul." So he's treating them very negatively, and then of course Virgil explains, "Look, Phlegus, we're not your usual passengers, and we're not going to be here very long. You just need to take us across." So then they get in the boat, and because Dante actually has a body, the boat responds differently to his weight. And it very quickly goes across to the other side. And this other side is the circle of the wrathful. And on their way to the other side arises a soul out of this mucky water. And this soul um, actually tries to approach Dante. And Dante uh, pushes him back. If you look at line 37 through 39, I to him, meaning the wrathful soul, with weeping and with wailing, thou spirit maledict, do thou remain, for I know you, though thou art all defiled. But nevertheless, the spirit tries to get in the boat, and then Virgil pushes him back and says, "Away there with the other dogs." And now we are up to line 43, which is where we're going to start our discussion for today.
Oh, well done.
Thank
Any
you.
Does that give you a little sense of the action here so
The
far?
story. Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. So the only thing I'll say on top of that is this is actually a change in Dante's behavior. That in Canto 5, when he encountered Francesca, and who's Francesca's lover?
Paulo.
Paolo. Dante's very sympathetic. And Virgil gets a little disgusted with him for being sympathetic. But in this particular case, Dante is not sympathetic, and Dante is going to praise him for that behavior. Okay, so starting with line 43, I'm just going to read a tiny bit. So, thereafter with his arms, he, Virgil, clasped my neck. He kissed my face and said, disdainful soul, blessed be she who bore thee in her bosom. And actually, I'm going to stop there. I think these are very meaty and potent three lines with lots to discuss. Anybody else bring up a point about these lines? All right. Well,
So
then I will
I
Duncan,
have,
I'm wondering here, I'm actually reflecting on what you said about the contrast between Dante's attitude towards Paolo and Francesca and his attitude towards this wrathful person here.
yes.
And I wonder, I'm not speaking about rape or sexual coercion, but are we not even today, and perhaps I put this out as somewhere between a question and a statement, but are we not today somewhat more forgiving of sins that involve lust? Again, not coercion or rape, but sins
Yeah.
involving consensual lust between two people than we are of things like anger and greed.
Yes, actually.
So that
and
when
I
and
think
so I
Dante was too.
yes, that and Dee Dee, that's my point. So
Uh-huh.
when he is more sympathetic to Paolo and Francesca and not to this wrathful person, in many ways he sort of carries our attitudes as well.
Or we tend to carry those older attitudes. And
True.
remember back in our discussion of Canto 5 with Paolo and Francesca, that the actual sin was not the physical act of sex. The actual sin was to let desire dominate reason. Which I think is an important point to make, and a theme that is going to appear over and over again, basically through every canto in the Inferno. That the sin of the people is not what they actually, it was not their actual feelings. It was that they let their feelings dominate their reason. And these three lines, 43 through 45, really display that, particularly when Virgil calls, this is one of the English translations, calls Dante disdainful soul.
See, in my translation is even milder.
Okay.
He's an indignant soul in the Sayers translation.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
and again, it's a linguistic thing, but I think we are more attracted by someone who's indignant than someone who's disdainful, because there's a sense of being haughty, at least in the English language today, when you're disdainful. But if you're indignant, that's a little milder, perhaps.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
the term righteous indignation.
That's what I
Righteous
was thinking.
indignation. Right.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, Joe.
Yeah, but please notice these are all, whether mild or whatever degree of mildness or aggression, they are all types of anger. And I think that the real point here is that anger itself is not the problem, that there is virtuous anger and there is unvirtuous anger. And the difference is whether the anger is controlled by
No,
reason or not.
Are you interested in Sayre's note?
yes, yeah.
Sure, of course.
It is important to understand this passage, since otherwise we may feel that Virgil is blasphemously encouraging Dante and very cruel and unchristian behavior in the way he addresses that spirit. We must distinguish here between the literal and allegorical meanings, which the poem fuses into a single image. So, just everything. It's complicated, and Dante is knows that. That's why he fuses the two aspects of his reaction and Virgil's encouragement.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I'm pointing out that the thread is whether the emotion is controlled by reason or not. So in the one case in Canto 5, we have physical desire, or we have desire, and the problem for Paolo and Francesca is not that they had desire, but they let the desire overcome their reason.
And you know, when you read all about Dante for a long time, you realize that Dante let lust overcome his reason for a long time in his life.
Yeah, yeah.
And he gets chastised later on in the story by Beatrice.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to encounter a lot of this. Practically at every canto that we read in Inferno and in Purgatorio, this same theme will come back over and over and over again, which is it is not the emotion that is the problem. It is the overthrowing, it is letting the emotion overthrow reason and proportion. And that actually, Sylvia?
Oh, there are very fine margins here.
They're a little subtle. They're a little subtle, I think, which is why he takes 100 cantos to
And
weave the argument and reinforce the argument, because yes, it is kind of subtle.
and Beatrice is arranging for Dante to go through all of this so that he can really atone for his sins and earn his way into heaven ultimately with her.
Well, I'm very attracted by the idea that both in Buddhism and in Dante, the place of reason and right perception. That if you have clarity in the mind, the highest form in Buddhism is the wisdom level. I mean, all the other stuff, the praising and, the good works and all that stuff is fine and dandy, but within that system, the highest level is right understanding, right perception. And I think that's also reflected in the Commedia.
Absolutely. And what Dante has Beatrice do for him, it's a beautiful, beautiful, poetic kind of, would you say, ambition?
I like the term explication myself. That in the whole Commedia, he's very systematically, not always totally clear, although there will always be the question of, is it clear because this mind doesn't understand what he's doing, or is he leaving some unclearness in his actual expression?
Well, and he's
But
trying to understand the character
he's trying
that
to understand.
sets out. Yeah.
Yeah, this is still a very young, mentally, spiritually speaking, a very young Dante even here, which is why Virgil gets so excited enough that he hugs Dante and then praises him, because Virgil recognizes that Dante has made some progress here when he became angry with the guy in the
Felipe.
muck.
Yeah. I suppose at the start, when he meets Francesca and Paolo, he's just started his journey. He can identify with them. So, and we all did. So you could understand that part. At this stage now, he's been through the gluttonous, the avarice, all of that. And then also, if this idea that Filippo, Genti's brother, did take all of Dante's things when he was exiled, that would show it with the maturity part. So there's two reasons why he might be maturing.
And really his identification of Felipe as the brother of the guy who took all of his stuff is a relatively immature, I mean, very understandable, but spiritually speaking, it's a relatively immature level. And I think that as Dante is writing this, the exquisiteness with which he is evolving the poem is quite marvelous.
Yeah.
Because, of course, we have two Dantes here. We have Dante the poet, and we have Dante the character, and they're different. And he is very delicately balancing and explicating what seems to me is spiritual growth. I see.
Yeah, that's the levels in the Inferno, which he, set up, structured.
Right. Not only in the Inferno, but also in the Purgatorio, and actually into a great deal of Paradiso. I think where were we at? We're at like Canto 30 in the Paradiso, when finally it's kind of announced that Dante has graduated.
All right, it was wonderful. I love that part.
So that's what, 90 some odd cantos demonstrating his experiences and his spiritual growth, which of course we're supposed to take a lesson from all of that ourselves.
I love what's starting with the verse, that was an arrogant person in the world.
Yeah.
Very good. So Didi, take over now and you start reading. And stop where you
Before
want.
that, if I can put something, that line 45, yeah, somebody says that to Jesus, more or less that same thing.
Oh, really?
In one of the Gospels. It might have I'm looking, I've got Singleton's commentary here.
Okay.
Luke 11:27. Blessed is the womb that bore thee. So I guess this is a pretty high compliment, unless it's just an accidental a statement that just happens to be similar and wasn't intended.
I suspect it wasn't accidental. I'm reading St. Augustine, and it's a threading of phrases, quotes from the Bible. Most of it is. I suspect it's totally deliberate.
You're talking about in St. Augustine, right?
Yeah. The Confessions, great book. And a literary incredible idea, because he's talking to God through the whole book. It's him talking to God. It's pretty awesome. I have to read, and my second reading, the first one was hard, but now I'm really enjoying it.
Okay. And I think also on line 45, Dave, this, at least in my translation, I think you said yours was indignant soul. I actually like that the Longfellow translation says disdainful soul, because the contrast between disdainful and blessed be is there's more of a chasm there. And it makes me stop and wonder, God, here we're taking a negative, disdainful, and a positive, disdain and bless. And I find something satisfying about that.
We don't have anyone with who can translate the Italian words.
What does it say?
You look in the dictionary,
Oh, okay.
always bearing in mind that uh, this is a modern dictionary and some words might change, but
But Duncan, you have the Italian. So what is the word in Italian?
As Google translated, it is disdainful soul. Blessed is she who engraved herself in you.
Yeah, but you have the Italian. What do you say in Italian?
Alma sedegnosa, benedetta, colie, Ken te shinsense. Do you read
We need our
Italian, Gabriella?
Italian
okay.
people.
Gabriella, do you read Italian?
No.
No.
So sdegnoso, disdainful, scornful, indignant.
So it could be any.
We,
And,
we all
Oh, and
mix it
you're
up.
when you run it through your dictionary, okay, it's
and,
fine.
and I've got wrathful. I can't even
Oh,
remember.
that's even better. That's actually even better, in my humble opinion. And as you know, my opinions are always humble.
Excuse me.
But I really enjoy the idea that they're using wrathful here, wrathful soul, blessed, because that's contrasting wrath, degrees of wrath, and context of wrath.
Yeah, that's an interesting poetic choice.
And I can't remember who this is by. I mean, it's too complicated to try and look at who it is. I can't. Who is it? I mean, as we said before, we're doing interpretations of this ourselves.
Yeah, right.
This, oh, hold on, I can't see.
Sylvia, say that again.
It's wrathful soul. I've just gone out of it. Who is it? Gosh. Yeah. Who is it?
I've lost the thread.
Yeah, it says no, he says you wrathful soul.
Mm-hmm.
And then blessed the one that held you in her womb. He uses womb. Some
Yeah.
of you are using bosom.
So this is why the people, I guess probably scholars, feel that Virgil is being blasphemous to encourage Dante in his cruel, unchristian, unforgiving attitude.
But
But it's not unchristian, and it is unforgiving, but it's once again, it's it's uh, it's based upon the idea of justice.
But I mean, she's
So,
not asserting it, but she's saying to understand the passage. Otherwise, we may feel that Virgil is blasphemous.
right, and I think that the counter argument or the counterpoint would be that if you think Virgil is being blasphemous, and if you think Dante is being unchristian in his rejection of the sinner, that you don't understand the system, you don't understand Christianity. That you don't understand that Felipe has put himself there by his behavior. That Felipe had free will, and he chose to use his free will inappropriately. And and that he will not repent, because
Right.
we're going to encounter the same thing in Purgatorio. Wrathful people who were wrathful, but instead of going to the Inferno, they end up in purgatory because they understand that their behavior was not appropriate, and now they want to repent and I forget what the term is, but basically make up for their bad behavior in purgatory so they can move on to Paradiso. But yeah, I would say it's certainly in our modern time, where we think that, we tend to be a little too sentimental. Anyway,
But is there, um, for a Christian as Dante views it, is there a difference between forgiving a wrong done to you as opposed to accepting that there have to be punishments for wrongs done? In other words,
mhm,
if he had done something to Dante,
mhm.
would it be unchristian for Dante to feel this way if that's his motive, rather than he feels this way because of the way this person led his life and his conduct in general? Or am I
Well, he
making sense or
definitely,
confusing everybody?
I think I understand what you're saying.
If he's saying, because in a few lines more he's going to say, I'd like to see him dunked in this. So if he's saying that because his brother did something to me, that's kind of unchristian. But
Well,
if he's saying that because
it's
of who
kind of
Filippo
immature.
Argenti
Yeah,
was,
it's certainly immature.
yeah, good.
Understandable, but very immature, and would be a sign, at least to me, of that. Okay, Dante is graduated. He's not as sentimental as he was with Paolo and Francesca. But and that's a good thing, and he deserves a hug and a gold star. But he's still feeling this tremendous anger at Filippo's brother, because Filippo's brother stole some of his stuff, he's still got a ways to go. So, like, to take the idea of the Christian idea of, if someone sins against you or slaps you, turn the other cheek, that's for the turner of one's cheeks, spiritual benefit, not for the sinner's benefit. The sinner who's going around slapping people's cheeks is still going to have to account for it sometime.
Mm-hmm.
and the sinner has no regret here,
Sinner has no regret. That's why he's in hell. If somebody jump in if I'm talking too much, which I
Let's read
tend to
some
do.
more.
Okay.
I think what John is saying is why does Dante be more Christian and forgive him?
Right,
Forgive Argento.
right. He could forgive someone who is responsible for a big part of his misery, but he isn't.
No, you can't forgive
He's
someone who
wrathful.
doesn't want to be forgiven.
He would take it as weakness.
Yeah. You forgive. I mean, my interpretation, I think it's backed up by reality. You forgive someone when they ask for forgiveness. You don't forgive an unrepentant soul.
Sure.
That's just silliness and sentimentality. That's just I mean, to a certain extent, if someone slaps you, turn the other cheek. As I said, that's not for the slapper's benefit. That's for the slappee's benefit.
And you don't have to feel kindly toward them. You can just go, poor fellow, that he would have to act that way.
Yeah, you don't. If someone slaps me and I can genuinely turn my other cheek, that I have become so spiritually mature that I don't mind some physical pain, I think that's to my benefit.
Well, it's
But
like you're
but if
challenging that person. Are you as bad as I think you are?
Or it's a way of saying, you think that your slap is going to punish me, but I'm going to demonstrate that I am rising above that.
Right.
That my
This is
faith is such. I mean, is this not the idea of the Christians that go into the gladiators ring
okay.
and who joyously allow themselves to be consumed by the lions as a way of showing their deep faith? Assuming that that was all sincere, that's quite a demonstration of faith. So anyway,
I just wanted to say that I like John's distinction between forgiving the personal insult, but still
Mhm.
condemning the general sin.
Yeah,
I think that's what's happening here. So I think during our discussion, I haven't said this, but I thought often about Jesus's conduct towards the money lenders, right? Where he got
mhm.
angry, where there was this
Right.
righteous indignation, call it what you want. But you don't interpret it as they personally insulted him here. It's the general business of what they're doing that's offended him.
I think was that condemn the sin and not the sinner.
Something like that. And John, I appreciate you raising that distinction because I think it
Mhm.
makes his, Dante's conduct a little more tolerable here for me.
Good. That's great. I'll be very interested, David, when in probably a couple of years when we're back at the same location. If I remember what you said now, I'll be interested to see if you say the same thing then.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, our opinions evolve, and they are clearly going to evolve thanks to the rich discussion that we're having as we move through this book. So I could certainly be thinking differently by the time, the group has sort of shepherded us through the whole commedia.
And Dante himself. I mean, I can tell you that I am very far from being spiritually evolved, but I will say that I have a feeling, more subtle and deeper feelings when reading this now than in the previous two times.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Sheila or Didi, are you ready to go on as far as you want to read, and then we'll stop again?
Okay. That was an arrogant person in this world. Goodness is none that decks his memory. So likewise here, his shade is furious. How many are esteemed great kings up there, who here shall be like unto swine in mire, leaving behind them horrible dispraises. And I, my master, much should I be pleased if I could see him soused into this broth before we issue forth out of this lake.
Word is soused.
Someone else can
Souse.
go on. Someone else should go on from here.
Well, I think don't we have anything to talk about here, or that does it?
Well, he's pretty. What's the right word? Cruel to that sinner in his mind. And of course, he knows that about himself. And who's different?
But
I think we should go.
Before we go on, I mean, at least we should stop on 52 through 54, because this is, I'm going to make a very rough analogy here between turning the other cheek. I mean, Dante is definitely not turning the other cheek when he says, "Much should I be pleased if I see him soused in this broth before we issue out of the lake," because this broth is kind of a septic tank, a septic lake.
I have swill as the translation.
Swill, that's good. That's good. Well,
and swine.
Been around,
the
have you ever been
swine.
around pigs?
Right.
Yeah, I've got pigs in my. Well, are you talking? Is it 49, 50?
53, 54.
No, I've got something to see him dabbled in the minestrone.
I'm sorry, read that again, Sylvia.
To see him, sorry, I'm sitting back. To see him dabbled in the minestrone.
Minestrone?
What translation is that?
This is Fitzpatrick. Wait a minute, I hope we're on the right lines.
I mean, no, I can see it. I mean, one, it's souse, but I mean, to call this broth,
minestrone.
Yeah, I think that's messing up the images. I don't like that one at all.
That's isn't it Fitzpatrick or something? He's called the guy. This is this.
Yeah, I think there's some sarcasm here, right? He's calling this muck they're in some kind of soup.
Yeah, right. Well, it's Italian. It's Italian soup, minestrone.
Broth is bad enough.
Okay. Well, my Google thing says, "Master, I would be very eager to see him dive into this swill before we leave the lake." So going back, I prefer swill, and I was asking the question: has anybody ever gone to a pig farm?
No.
Okay, yeah, okay, David, you have at least seen a pig farm?
My dad used to raise them actually, so yes. But it was an industrial complex, so they were actually on concrete floors. They weren't kind of wallowing in the snow.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well,
I was telling the story the other day. In 1966, I was still at school, but I was minding some children while the parents went to a wedding. And the children, they got into the pigsty and they were lying in the muck. And they kept saying, "Look, I'm a little pig." So we had to bring them out and hose them and take off their clothes. So that's
My experience with pigs is Charlotte's Web. So you get very sympathetic to pigs.
Pigs actually adapt to whatever environment they're in. They don't want to. They don't want to be around and swill, but if that's their choice, then they'll do it. And a pig sty with a pig swill is a truly disgusting place.
I know.
I mean, it's incredibly disgusting because they're pooping and they're peeing and they're eating and it's all happening in this muck.
I got the impression from Charlotte's Web that it was good fertilizer.
It is great fertilizer, but you wouldn't want to live there.
I have a cousin whose business is raising pigs. So he has a big barn and it houses 2,500 pigs at a time. He gets them at a certain stage and then fattens them up for sending on to the butchery. But it's all very sanitary. I understand nobody is allowed in. They're not exposed to any outside illness or whatever. But I'd love it's big business, just like ducks are in France. Fatten them up
right
for processing. Mm-hmm.
I actually had a job one time. I was a genetics research assistant 1, and I got my good buddy appointed as genetics research assistant 2, and our job was to travel all over the Midwest to chicken egg ranches.
Oh,
And we went into all kinds of barns. And let's just say that I absolutely refused to eat eggs or chickens for a decade after that experience. And I was appalled at how terribly these creatures were treated. And I know the same thing happens with pigs. The newer ones, the pig farms in China and Mexico are huge. And anyway.
Yeah.
Coming back to Dante, that this lake that these people in is actually just a big septic pond. And who wouldn't like to see their enemies dunked in a septic pond until we, perhaps evolve a little bit spiritually. So this is kind of a comical one. These are comical verses, I think, this idea. Yes, Gabriela.
I have a question,
What?
and you guys can help me understand a little bit more about Dante. So, and also the irony, of his behavior as he's going through the Inferno. Okay, he's going through the Inferno for a reason, right?
Yes.
So, but how how do you describe or interpret here the sinner acting in a self-righteous way?
Mm-hmm.
Although maybe it seems like has improved a little bit.
Yes.
But how how does that help him go through this, let's say, spiritual purification process that he was set for?
It helps him because he has taken a tentative step towards realizing the justice of the Inferno.
He's learning.
His understanding is still immature, but it's a clear sign that a tentative step has been taken.
But he's learning too about, he has this hierarchy of sins. Which one did I commit? That's what he's asking himself as we get all the way through the Inferno. That's what Beatrice wanted him to do, I believe. He poses her as a character to allow him to do that before he dies.
Mm-hmm.
He'll know what he has to repent and what he doesn't have to repent.
So can we say that even through life, I mean, what's heaven and what's infernal, right? I mean, we don't, let's not talk about the life after death, but even through our daily life,
Mhm.
that we experience both at the same time, right?
Yeah,
then we can say that, how many of us live our lives pointing fingers at others, right? And how that habit, that behavior, in which way it actually helps us to realize like who we are or how we can improve or what is the right and wrong, and instead actually make us feel that we're right or that we're not too wrong. I don't know, I just want to reflect on that. Although it seems like this is a process, a more mindful process that he's going through, right?
He's going through, this is the whole poem is 100 and I forget, someone tell the number of cantos. Anyway, it's a very, hold on, I need to,
100.
here I can
Sorry.
probably,
D, D, ako.
okay. Okay. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. It's a very long poem. The poem is about how love is going to help, how true and spiritual love is going to rescue Dante. And you will find, if you stick with us, that even when we get to the end of Purgatorio and he finally meets his desire, Beatrice, she's going to scold him.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, she's going to be really angry with him. And it's both very amusing and very enlightening to read the meeting of the final the final part of Purgatorio when he is turned over by the poet to Beatrice, who is going to escort him personally through the various levels of Paradiso. So, in kind of in a sense, this whole poem is mainly about how spiritual growth is led by spiritual love and desire. And that in Dante's case, it is the transmutation of a profane desire into a spiritual, or a profane love into a spiritual love. But it's a very long and complicated and at many times ambiguous. There's going to be a lot of ambiguities here, which may have to do with Dante or it may have to do with us, the readers. And with that, I should.
But I think Gabrielle is suggesting that examining our own reactions day by
Yeah.
day is being encouraged by this poem.
Yes, yes, it is a mirror to use. In addition to
Makes better
encouraging us,
people.
Gabriella, did we make any progress here?
Yes, yes. It was, you know, a question to explore, and I
Mhm.
totally, yeah, feel I advance in understanding.
Okay. It shall be revisited again and again.
And that's why we're reading slowly, because questions come to mind of various sorts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, we had this comical thing where Dante, the human, gets his desire to see his opponent, Filippo, ducked in the mire again, to which he says, that still I praise and thank my God for. All right. Dee Dee, have you done your reading?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's the next reader?
I think
It
I am.
is John.
Uh, so starting at line 61,
61.
they all were shouting at Filippo Argenti, and that exasperate spirit Florentine turned round upon himself with his own teeth. We left him there, and more of him I tell not, but on mine eyes there smote a lamentation, whence forward I intent unbar mine eyes. And the good master said, even now, my son, the city draweth near whose name is Dis, with thee grave citizens, with thee great throng. And I its mosques already master clearly, within there in the valley I discern, vermilion, as if issuing from the fire. They were, as if issuing from the fire they were. And he to me, the fire eternal, that kindles them within makes them look red, as thou beholdest in this nether hell.
Okay.
Hmm. Just all that anger, wrath.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
That's quite an image.
You think about the memory of wrathful people in your own world. Um,
In Chinese medicine, anger is probably, in Chinese medicine and Chinese thought, the emotions are associated with various, of course,
Elements.
emotions and various illnesses, and anger is the worst.
didn't you say the liver last week?
The anger is associated with the liver, yes, and that a lot of people are suffering from what's called liver repression, which is they, instead of expressing their anger, they keep it locked up inside of them. I mean, we all know people of this nature. But that the problem with anger is it overthrows all reason. Of course,
Hmm.
There's still toxicity being built up inside the body that the liver cannot deal with.
right. Usually the idea is that anger is stuffed in the liver until the liver either goes bad itself or it explodes and causes a stroke.
Wow.
And the element associated is fire, no?
Yes. Well, actually, fire
That's
is more associated with the heart,
mm-hmm.
and the liver is associated with wood. But the
Mm-hmm.
idea of when you get too much fire in wood, it starts smoking, and then it can blow up into a kind of an explosion.
Well,
Yeah.
it goes from the liver to the heart, and then there's a stroke. Oh, to the
To the
brain.
head.
It
To
goes
the
to the
head.
head.
Brain.
It goes to the
Yeah.
head because there's so much pressure in there. And, I mean, not all strokes are caused by blood pressure, but many of them are. And so that's important. Um, and we don't have to get into all the different organs and all the different diseases that are associated with them, and the season and the color and all that. It's very complicated. But I do remember, and I will tell you, if you look at this, is very much aside, but the Chinese character for anger is a woman with a big hand pressing down on her.
Oh,
That's the actual pictogram for anger.
wow. Oh,
There's
interesting.
a lot of fun characters in Chinese that had to do with emotions and what they demonstrate.
Yeah, I have to go look at that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can
and
probably.
fire too. It has fire in it.
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
in the character in the Chinese character.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
The
Mhm.
woman and the fire.
Woman in the fire and a hand on top. So let that be a warning to the world.
Wow, that's very interesting.
I'm afraid my attention deficit self missed the discussion on line 58, I think it is. Let me just see here.
Okay?
Is he being pulled to pieces?
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Yeah. And a little after that, I saw such havoc made of him by the people of the mire that I praise and thank God for. Of course, all the other people in the mire are other versions of Felipe Argenti.
Right. So Dante is being thankful that this guy's being pulled to pieces.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Gabriel. Yes, he's being thanked. This is kind of, at least in my opinion, this is humorous.
And this is what's happening to souls. They're not live bodies.
This is happening to souls, but I mean Dante's thing about, oh, look there's my enemy, he's being torn apart. Oh my God, and then he even has, look at the next line in 62, and that exasperate spirit Florentine turned round upon himself with his own teeth. So
Wow.
the at least the image I get is Felipe Argente as biting himself and tearing himself apart.
Do you know, yeah. In mine, he I think it's Fitzpatrick, refers that line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that
63, line 63.
yeah, turning the Guelph turned teeth upon himself. So he identifies him as, a Guelph as well.
Oh, really? Okay, because this describes him as that exasperate spirit Florentine. Oh, okay.
He calls him, the line before, the crazy Florentine. He
Mm-hmm.
balked, turning the Guelph turned teeth upon himself. He's put in turn. Yeah,
I wonder where that image comes from. It's something I've never encountered, actually.
Hmm. What's that line number again, please?
60. 1, 2, 3, I guess, 63.
I've got it at 62 and it's translated as fierce Florentine, if that's what we're still referring to.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
Dave, yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy.
in
I haven't.
the bizarre, this is a Google translation. The bizarre Florentine spirit within itself turned with its teeth.
Within himself, what?
Uh, it's a kind of an awkward thing. Hold on, I need to do it again. And the bizarre Florentine spirit within itself turned with its teeth.
Hmm.
Which I've just I'll just say the thing that this is, of course, what happens also to people with anger. They're literally burning themselves up.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
I've got a, oh, go ahead.
You're
you
up.
go, John.
So go
All right,
ahead.
John. Okay, here we go. John, please, and then we'll have.
Okay, well, I want to jump ahead to 65 and 66. So if we're still back on 63, someone else should speak first. Um,
Does anybody have anything to say about up to 63 before John talks about the next three verses?
I just wanted to point out probably the obvious that the anger where it's been described here is that anger without reason, right? Like being that has overtaken reason. So
Yes. Mhm.
that's
It's a frenzy.
Yeah.
my question is, what exactly is going on in 65 and 66? On my ears there smote a lamentation, whence forward I intent unbar mine eyes. And so I'm wondering what Dante's doing here.
Mhm.
Because it sounds like, even though he said he wanted to see this, if he's holding his eyes forward intently, it's too much for him to keep looking at. I,
Mhm.
I, but I'm not sure I'm reading that line correctly.
Let's see. So we got Filippo in the lake.
Mhm.
And we left him, more of him I shall not tell. But on my ears there smote a lamentation. Okay, so that's pretty clear. Even though they weren't looking at Filippo anymore, they could still hear the cries. Whence forward I intend unbar mine eyes.
So keep reading. It answers the question, I think.
Okay. And the good master, yeah, I think this is the switch where his attention is being released from Filippo and going forward to the fact that they are going to the city of Dis.
But the whence, I guess if it said then, but the when seems to tie it to the lamentations, like I'm hearing this and I can't look anymore, or maybe I'm reading too much into it.
You may be perfectly right to read it that way.
It was
Sounds
new,
like he got
though.
more than he bargained for.
But it was new, John. It wasn't there, and then it got his attention. So it seems like it's, what's ahead, not what's behind. Right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's a transition.
It's a
Yeah.
transition. Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah, it's looking ahead, trying to avoid paying attention to that lamentation or to whatever it was saying.
Right, right. He's deliberately trying to
Deliberately.
separate to focus on what's ahead and to exclude what's in back. Yeah, that's the best I can do.
There's a lot with transitions that Berliner talks about where there are kind of structures of transitions. It's a whole category of examination of what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. Let's see if I can find, okay.
It's
Okay,
kind of what you're leaving and what you're getting to, and the process that is in the story as how he describes it.
Alrighty. I think we may have time for one more reader and a little bit of a discussion and then wind it up for the day.
Yeah.
So someone tell me what to do.
Who's next? Did you read a lot, John? I've lost track.
I read up to 75.
Read
Yeah.
up to
Okay, the
77.
mosque. Yeah.
Am I next?
Yes.
But yeah, we should say something about the mosques.
Yeah, what's that?
Seems
Yeah.
kind of
Well, the towers.
nasty. But,
Yeah, I don't actually think he means it to be nasty. I think he has more positive feelings towards Muslims than kind of one might assume. And
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just guessing that.
I don't know. I mean, he's talking about the minarets.
Yeah, and yeah, there's a Sayers comment on that. It's
Yeah.
Mohammedanism was looked on correctly enough, she says, by the Middle Ages as being a Christian heresy, and immediately inside the walls of Dis, we shall in fact find the circle of the heretics. More generally, the mosques indicate that the city is devoted to a perverse and infidel cult. I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, I was thinking it wasn't benign at all.
Yeah.
Because it says that the minarets beyond this moat is bright and red. It seems as if they sprang from fire, eternal fire, burning within projects. You can see these growing profiles from the depths of hell. You couldn't get any worse than that.
But he does have a Muslim eventually in heaven, I think. I can't remember.
Oh, Saladin.
Saladin,
Saladin
that's
some
right.
kudos.
Yeah.
Oh.
But if I'm not mistaken, Dee Dee, doesn't Muhammad make an appearance in hell, Riven?
I think so. I'm not sure. I can't remember for sure.
But we went through these so fast that I can't remember. We went at like motorway speed.
We were moving way
this
too fast.
This is a totally different experience.
Yeah.
Too fast
hard to believe
brains.
that I've read this all twice before.
I know. No, reading it fast is not.
Yeah.
Who can do that?
I remember this, but I don't remember what what happened in this.
Well, here we are. Should we start this next time?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is definitely a transition point, and I don't think we expected to only do 26 lines when we started, but we've
Yeah.
had a good discussion, and I think it's been really interesting. But
So,
probably since we're at a transition, it's time to wrap it up.
So we'll start at 76.
Yeah, or we can even start at like 68. I mean, this, for example, I have this note from Hollander. Dis for the Romans, another name for Pluto, god of the underworld. For Dante is thereby another name for Lucifer of Satan or Satan. So we're arriving at the city of Satan.
Mm.
And then the next note that he has on line 70, most visible buildings in this city seen from afar are mosque, thus associating them with what was for Dante and his era a most hostile religious and military force, the Mohammedans.
All right, that's the context on it. Mm.
Yeah, but of course, there's also a little bit of schizophrenia that appears regarding the Muslims, which is it was the Muslims that translated Aristotle.
Correct. Right.
So, and Dante will recognize that that was a pretty important development.
And this
So,
is a big, um, it's a big transition point. Uh, Somewhere a few cantos later, um, they're going to make the point that what we've seen so far are lesser sins, and what's coming now is more. This is kind of a dividing point.
Yeah.
I don't remember that clearly, but I think it comes up in a few more cantos.
Great. This has been good. So, Gabriella, I hope you can come join us again.
I hope so too. Next week I will be out of town. I am organizing a seminar, so I will be busy. But the following week I will try to join you.
Yeah.
I really thank you for allowing me to land in the middle of your study and and explore with you guys.
It actually helps us to review and to clarify
Sure.
Mm.
Yeah.
some things. So, and you bring in, a new perspective, and really, we're using all of our different perspectives to make progress here. So, you're welcome anytime that you're
Thank you.
able
Mhm.
to join us,
Thank you.
and don't worry about whether you've missed something or not. That's works to our advantage in some ways.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Okay,
you.
so
Duncan,
yes, sir.
Okay.
can you stay on about
Okay.
30 seconds after everybody goes? I just want to ask you
Sure.
about another book discussion.
Okay, so in that case, you'll have to let yourselves out of the room. Do you know how to
Okay.
do that?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Bye.
see you all
Bye.
next week. I'll
Bye-bye.
talk with Dave a little bit. Bye-bye.
Actually, all I wanted to ask was, there was a comment made during the Ulysses discussion. Is there another group discussion on Monday that I would be able to participate in, or did I misinterpret what was said?
I thought did I not reply to your email
Oh,
about that?
you did. Which is fine. But that's okay. But is there
Oh,
something Monday?
I wrote it up. It must be sitting in my unsent
Okay.
box.
All right.
On Mondays, we have a thing called the Monday Book Club.
Okay.
And right now we are reading Dubliners.
Okay. Right.
And yeah, God, let me check that, Dave, because I know I wrote the whole thing up for you. So I must have gotten spaced out and not sent it.
Okay. So are you doing what the Montreal Bloomsday is doing? Like, are you doing a chapter, a discussion?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Okay. So what Bloomsday Montreal is doing every first and third Thursday of the month is they take we're going in order through Dubliners, and we take a
Mhm.
chapter per discussion. So for
Mhm.
instance, we just did two Gallants, and
Mhm.
the next 2 hour session is going to be boarding house. Is that what you are doing with this group as well?
Yes, except we started off we're doing two stories at a time
Oh, you
right
are.
now.
Okay, right. Okay,
Yeah, so we read a story,
right,
we discuss it. Now, if our discussion didn't seem to be winding up, we would
right.
just continue discussing that
Okay,
particular story.
okay,
But if it feels like everybody's made their points and we've explored as much as we were able to, and there's still time, then we go on and we read a second story.
excellent. Okay, and just so because I think you and I are on the same time, it's 2:38 Saskatchewan time.
Yes,
Does this go at 1 o'clock Monday afternoon then?
yes,
Okay.
it
All right.
does.
Well, if you can, if we can say a sayonara, and if you could just send me the link, it would be something I'd
Yeah,
be
I
interested.
must have it in my draft box because I know I wrote it, but
Right.
my life has been a little confusing. There's some strife I'm dealing with, and
It's fine.
I
It's okay. No,
sometimes.
and yeah. So this is the one I'm. This is a translation I have, and I've got
Okay,
Gifford's notes for it too. Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
a
if you
great
can
book.
see mine. If you
Yeah.
get this is a hardback copy
Right.
that I just happen to have,
Good.
and that's what I've been using. But they read the same.
I do.
Okay, so I will go and find my draft because I know if I didn't write the whole thing, I've got most of it written already because I remember putting the Zoom link in it.
Okay. Sounds good. That'd be great. Okay. So
Okay, okay.
we'll see you tomorrow with Ulysses then.
It's already Thursday, isn't it? Thank you for
That'll
the
be Thursday
reminder.
tomorrow. And you know what? I just love the Aeolus chapter, so I'm pumped to talk about it a little more if that's what the group wants to do.
Okay,
Okay.
excellent.
Take care then.
Onward.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.